So we are entering the month of May. We are deep into the spring market here in central Maine. Interest rates are still up, inventory still somewhat down. What does this mean if you're buying or selling a home? Stick around, we're gonna get into that today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is your central Maine realtor, Nick Isgro with eXp Realty. Can't believe it's that time again. We're already ready to do our monthly market update to tell you all of the relevant numbers of what's going on in the real estate market here in central Maine so that you will be the best prepared buyer or seller, whatever the case may be. Now, before I get into that, I want to welcome you here to the channel. If you've never been here before, we cover all things real estate here in the state of Maine, but particularly right here in the central Maine market. And if that's of interest to you or adds value to your process in the buying and selling of homes, do me a favor. Go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, knock that little alarm bell. You'll be notified every time I put out new content. Now, as always, I'm gonna start systematically and just go through this in a very intentful purpose to go from one statistic to the next so you can see how this builds one great big picture by the end, and we'll try to wrap this up with a nice little bow so you can have a good idea of what it all means. We'll try to make a few predictions and leave a little room for what you have to say. I want to jump right in here with new listings because this has been one of the biggest numbers we've been looking at. We have not been adding the kind of inventory that we were a year ago, and if you remember, a year ago it was already squeezed. So where are we this month? 140 new listings. Take a look at this graph here. Certainly an uptick from last month. Very exciting news, especially for the buyers that have been sitting out there waiting for this new inventory to hit. But as you can see, it's not as much as it was a year ago, 164 new listings, April. However, one thing I want you to look at this graph, last May was when we saw a big breakthrough in the trend, a big jump in the inventory. So these next few weeks as they unfold are gonna really be telling as to how that's gonna play out. If you subscribe to my monthly newsletter, which if you drop a comment below, I'll get in touch with you and we can add you to that list. You will see week to week what's going on because I send those numbers out every week. But what's going on right now, we are seeing an uptick. The big question is going to be what happens this week, next week, and the next week after that. During the month of May, will we have a big breakthrough? But by and large, this is really positive news. Now let's jump over to sales activity. As always, sales activity is going to be a mixture of what went pended during the month, that's homes that went into escrow, as well as what sold. And remember last month when we got into the pended listings, we had the 67 huge drop off in homes that were going under contract into escrow. Probably should result in a lower number of sales this month. We'll see if that plays out in a little bit here. But what's going on with homes that are actively going under contract into escrow during this last month as we head into the month of May? 72. So not a huge jump from the month before. We saw more listings. We're seeing fewer homes still going under contract, more than the month before, but really, let's face it, this is nothing to write home about as buyers are out there actively searching through the inventories looking for these homes. Look at where we were last year. Over 160 went under contract during the same time period. So we're, less than half of what we had for activity the year before, which is interesting. If you go to any open house right now, you're going to see cars lined up the driveway, packed. We're seeing many multiple offer scenarios out there, really pushing the prices. I just had one that was coming soon this last week, and before I was even able to turn it into an active listing or hold an open house, we had a really aggressive bully offer come in and accepted that. It went into escrow. So interesting to see what's going on here. A lot fewer homes. Maybe with this new inventory hitting, we're going to see an uptick in activity. Only time's going to tell. So let's take a look at what happened over sales. Bringing up sales here, 73 homes were sold compared to that 67 that we saw pended last month. That means there's probably a few quicker turnaround sales in there as well. But basically, this is exactly what we would have expected. The previous month's contracts turned into current month sales. So just the same numbers coming through. Well, let's take a look here. We saw an increase in new listings coming to market this month finally. We didn't really see any change, outside of a handful in the pended contracts. Sales, same thing, fairly stagnant based off the previous month's pending numbers. This should mean we have finally an increase in the overall inventory. That would be great news for a lot of people in this market right now. Let's take a look at that number. As expected, bringing it up here, 181 active listings, finally seeing a bump in those numbers, seeing the inventory numbers come up. If you're a buyer in the market, especially if you're just coming in, or maybe you've been sitting on the sidelines as you haven't had a lot of choices to choose from, now there's more homes available to see that if it fits your criteria for you to go take a look at, get the feel of it, see if it's something that you want to make an offer on right now. It's something you've been waiting for, and it's something that is finally happening a little bit. Now, I don't want to exaggerate what's happening here because we still have very low inventory. And let's jump back here a little bit. We're going to talk about inventory as we move over to months of supply, because it's important to put all of these numbers in perspective. So a balanced market where you have somewhat of an equilibrium between a buyer and a seller is with about 6 months of inventory on the market. So that means if we were to sell everything we have on the market right now, put no new listings on, how long would it take? About 6 months. Take a look at this number as I bring it up right now with this increase of inventory. Just over a month, about a month and a quarter's worth of inventory on the market. So still actually below even national standards. Nationally, there's about 2.5 months of inventory. Here in the central Maine market, we remain squeezed even beyond that, which is why you're seeing such a hyper competition out there. When the really juicy listings, the sexy listings come on right now, they're going really quick. They're going over contract price. We'll get into pricing in a little bit. This number explains why. So yes, we've had a bit of an increase. We haven't had that much of an increase. Now, look at where we were last year though. This is what's important on perspective. Last year, we had less than half a month of inventory, even though we were putting more homes on the market. So we were putting more homes on the market. They were obviously selling a lot faster. That shows buyer activity was sped up. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that a year ago, you were still about 3% interest on your mortgage rates. Now, as we creep closer to 7% or maybe at 7% interest, that has put a bit of a damper in that frenzied activity, just like we're continuing to see other things happen. Like, a year ago, there was a lot of waiving of contingencies. We're not seeing that so much. FHA loans, USDA loans, these are all back on the table. So now we've looked at inventory, I want to talk about days on market and the effect of the inventory, days on market. What does that look like for pricing? This is important. If you're selling a home right now, you want to know what's happening with the prices. A lot of people feel like they missed the boat. You're going to see that's not true. If you're a buyer, you want to know really where are we landing as we're making those offers. So first up, let's take a look at the days on market. This is the average days that a home here in Kennebec County is going to remain on the market before it goes into escrow and becomes an appended listing. Bringing this up here, you can see last month we had a big jump in the time on market. We're coming back down now. 43 days on the market, 43.7 actually, so closer to 44. But remember, look at this. Last month we were over 60 days, which was a big jump, and that was a lot of that kind of staler inventory because we know inventory has been low. Some of the stuff that's been sitting on there a while, that's finally starting to churn through. New listings are coming on, buyers are coming in the market, that inventory that's coming on is churning a little bit faster, so this number is coming down. My prediction, what I'm gonna guess is, we're gonna see this number continue to ratchet down over the course of May. So when we check in here next month, beginning of June, you're gonna see another dip here. So really just a few weeks on the market. Again, we're seeing a lot of homes that are going within a couple of hours, within a couple of days. So that's why I'm feeling like this is going to start speeding up more and more as we churn through some of this older inventory that still might be hanging out. But if you're a seller, it is good to know that if you've been on the market a couple of weeks, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with your home either. So this is the average time on market. And this is why also it's always important to work with your real estate professional, with your real estate agent. Get into that micro niche of where your market is. What's happening in your town? What's happening in your neighborhood? Those numbers are going to really tell you how long your home should be on the market if it is priced correctly. So let's see what's happening with pricing as we get into the spring market here. We're going to go over and look at first the sale to list price ratio, and then we'll check out what's going on with the median sold pricing. But sale to list price ratio, this is how much of the list price, the asking price, are sellers actually getting. Bring up the chart here, check this out. About 100%, actually slightly over 100%, and it's actually 100% of original list price. So what does this mean? Well, remember last fall, early winter, late winter, we talked about price drops were happening. they're not really happening anymore. And there's a mixture of things happening here. One is real estate agents and sellers have been able to adjust to market changes, but also lower inventories, not adding the amount of homes we were a year ago, 34% less last month than we saw the year prior. That's going to have an impact on the competition as buyers are still looking for homes. We're now right back to where we were, sellers essentially getting what they're asking for. And from here, let's just bring up the median sold price. You can see not a huge story. There hasn't been all year. Prices, I mean, this is always going to fluctuate depending on what price categories things are selling, especially when you have a limited number of sold listings to choose from. But overall, $290,000 was the median sold price this month. A year ago, it was about $272,000. There has been an increase, but you can see from the chart, there's a little up and down, but by and large, the story, which is going to kind of come into my prediction here, not a lot of change. I think we're going to continue to see more of the same. I think we're going to probably have a great month of May. I think there will be more homes coming into the market if things follow their historical trend, which is a bigger jump, even if it's less than last year. Should be a bigger jump. I know I'm having more listing appointments. Other agents are having more listing appointments. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. That should start ticking up the sales activity. What happens with rates? What happens with buyers? I think we're going to remain steady. I think it'll be active. People who are looking for homes, first-time home buyers, by the way, are totally back into the market. Remember, a lot of them had a harder time last year. They were priced out of the market. They were competitively somewhat pushed out of a lot of markets. That's not really the case necessarily now. So they're back. I think we'll see that combined with that limited inventory continue the trend of solid pricing. I don't think we're going to see a big swing up. I don't think we're going to see a big swing down. There might be little ups and downs depending on what niche part of the market any given house is in at any time. But overall, more consistent, more of the same. And that is really it for the market update this month. Nothing groundbreaking, but just going to be interesting to see. We have to kind of ride the wave, see where it takes us. Would love to hear from you. Are you in the market right now? What are your predictions? Do you think we're going to see a big crash? Do you think we're going to see a flood of inventory? Or do you think we're going to see a little bit more of this squeeze? Will pricing remain the same? Will rates finally peak out? Drop a comment below. Always love to hear from you. Of course, if you are looking for a real estate professional to work with, would love to chat with you, or even if you just want somebody to run something by. I took one of those calls last month. Somebody not really in my market, just wanted to hear a little bit about what was going on. Would love to hear from you. My contact information is linked in the post below. Reach out anytime. Of course, as always, I appreciate each and every one of you sticking around to the end of this video, and until the next one, I'll see you next time.